Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
No.
This whole thing's ruined.
It's all ruined.
Oh, it's
Podcast is canceled.
It's just the cord?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I found
So we don't have to cancel the podcast?
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
That's a close one.
Well,
I wasn't talking just about this podcast. I meant the entire
the entire show? You mean because of a staticky cable, we're going to end
We cannot
everything?
have low quality.
We have a 2.5 year legacy, and you want to just call it.
Even a moment of low quality
Oh my
is the end for me.
No, I have terrible news. There's
What?
a lot of moments of low quality.
What? Why wasn't I informed? This is a disaster.
Phones ringing, people coming in. Remember when the delivery guy walked in the middle of
Well,
the show?
I think you and I have a different definition of low quality.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
I believe that's
high quality.
exclusive
Yeah.
content.
It's what won us this award right here.
That's
Sorry.
right, which we'll point to as many times as possible. We have another one that's supposed to be coming.
Yes, we do.
We're taking. We've been hawking the show when there's somebody waiting for us.
I
to
know.
do
He's waiting. He's waiting in the wilderness too.
so patiently.
He's waiting in the wilderness. No, you said it just right. Welcome to the Biofriendly Podcast. I'm Jacob.
I'm Noel.
And Elise.
I'm Elise.
She's
There
Elise.
she
She
is.
can be Elise today.
Yeah.
But today, I'm excited about our guest. And if you're watching the show, you've seen him sitting there patiently as we're talking nonsense. But ladies and gentlemen.
Like so many guests before him.
Yes, like so many, waiting for us to just give him a minute to talk. Please welcome to the show, Grant Brown, the creator and founder of Happy Eco News. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jacob.
Yes.
I'm a big fan, and I love the show, and I love what you guys are doing, so I feel very honored and happy to be here. So thank you.
love
Well,
it.
thank you. That feeling's mutual, Grant. We
Yeah.
love Happy Eco News.
Yeah.
It's nice that there are so few places that literally are focusing on let's bring out the positive in the environment. Let's
Yes.
make things a little brighter, a little happier. And yours is one of the beacons. So
Yes.
we are big fans of
Yeah.
Happy
Well,
Eco
thanks.
News. So very glad to have
it's
you.
kind of unique in the space. It seems like everybody's focused on the negative right now, which is why I think everything resonates so well between Biofriendly and what I'm doing as well. So,
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. You've got happy in your title. We've got friendly in ours. So we're,
And then we have bio. He has eco.
there's so
I mean, come on.
three-letter green words.
We're basically the same.
Eco,
We're basically
bio.
the same.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the
I
same.
love it.
So,
I love it.
I have to say something, though.
Yeah.
At one point, we were going to call it the Friendly Eco News.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, and the funny thing is that we might not be talking right now.
Right.
Had I called it that.
Oh,
There might be
we would be
lawyers
so
involved
upset.
or something
Oh,
like that. I
definitely.
don't know.
This would have been an environmental West Side Story. We
Yeah.
would have been snapping on each side and been like, "Keep it cool, boy."
When you're a bio all the way from your first happy week to your
your
last
breathing air.
breathing guy. Yeah.
But Grant, what part of the world are you in?
So I'm just outside of Vancouver, Canada, in beautiful British Columbia. So
Okay, so it's
the
official.
screen behind me that you can see is actually the forest in behind my home, and it's the place where I go and find sort of solitude. And it's interesting. Even my son now is age 20, and these days things are kind of crazy in the world, and I think a lot of those young kids are dealing with some pretty interesting and different thoughts that we didn't have when we were young.
Yeah.
And my son even now goes out there and, you can it's called forest bathing. Actually, I don't know if you guys have heard
Sure.
of it. or not.
We've covered
Yes,
it. Yeah,
we
we
did a
love forest
show on
bathing.
forest
Yeah.
bathing.
Yeah. And so, it's one of those really amazing things where you can find that mental shift, it's kind of getting outside of your own head just by sitting there and observing the plants and animals and sounds that are all around you. So, so that's where I am. Interestingly enough, my town is actually called White Rock, and White Rock is founded by a local group many years ago. And anyway, we're right on the American border. So on July 4th, we got to watch American fireworks. So it's kind of wonderful.
Just right across the
Just
border there.
looked out there and went, there they go. The noisy
there they go.
neighbors.
And you guys do it big, I have to say. So
We do. In Los Angeles, we added probably
Millions.
a gajillion tons of CO2, probably.
So many things went off on the 4th of July here.
It was wild because last year was like was like the middle finger to the man fireworks show that every person in the city of Los Angeles, it seems, bought like production quality fireworks and launched them into the air when they were told no fireworks.
No fireworks, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah."
And then this year, I think people were inspired by the kind of revolution attitude last year, and so there were even more people this year who had those fireworks. Plus, they had the public fireworks shows, which had doubled up because nothing happened last year. So there is still, we are still in a haze.
Yeah.
So they're pent up frustrations, pent up excitement for getting free from lockdown.
COVID.
And then a whole bunch of cash burning a hole in the pocket. And, fireworks sellers are doing a booming business.
They are.
I imagine there's a person out there that was like, I'm spending my entire stimulus check on things that explode.
Yeah.
They probably did too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And we got to enjoy that, I suppose, in Los Angeles as we watch it blow up in the sky.
Yeah, well, what I love is that Grant continues the long tradition of our environmental guests that are from Canada.
Yes.
It just that is no longer a surprise anymore.
But he is the first to take a picture of something that is behind the wall where he's actually sitting and put it in front of the wall via digital image.
I love it.
On a Zoom background.
I love it. It just makes it all the more rich.
Thank you for doing that. That's number one.
If I could have made it a live stream, I would have.
I believe it.
Forest bathing live. We'll have to do a live stream.
But I feel like that's something that I want to just do that in general, like on Zoom. Just take a picture of
just the regular
of the building
background
that would have been behind me, and then put that behind me.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of those? This is a tangential thing, but have you seen those things where people made a video of themselves like bringing themselves coffee, and then they put it as their background for their work meetings? So it's so great. They'd be in the middle of a work meeting, and then they'd have a video background of them bringing themselves coffee.
Here you go,
There'd be a
Jacob.
video of me sitting doing Zen position in the background somewhere. Just
forest bathing.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
Well, you guys are welcome anytime. My forest is open to you, and you guys want to come and bathe. Please do. That sounds so wrong, but what the hell?
If it's wrong, I don't want to be right.
Now that we're getting to the point where we can travel around again, I mean, we've got a lot of people we have to visit, so we're gonna have to go ahead and put together our show.
Yeah, we got a road show.
Yeah, our road show.
We should do a documentary where we just literally visit every single podcast guest that's been on the show. Wouldn't that be amazing? Would that be amazing?
It'd be amazing, right? Just to go from spot to spot to spot. I mean, we're due. So we'll take you up on that. I don't know when we'll have to fit it onto the calendar, but we will definitely take you up there and do some. We'll do live forest bathing.
Yeah,
for our audience.
Well, before we get into Happy Eco News, which I'm going to direct our audience to go check out, while you and I were emailing back and forth, you told me some pretty fascinating stuff about just your life's journey. So I'd love a little taste of both. I would love to hear kind of some of the things that you've worked in and your journey so far, what led you to create Happy Eco News, and then we can just geek out about being positive for the planet.
I'm totally happy to talk about me all day long. So
Awesome.
Please stop me whenever you need to.
Okay.
So
that's enough.
I'm just a typical suburban kid from the Vancouver area of Canada. We're like the California of Canada. Okay.
Nice.
So I led that typical, spent a lot of time down on the beach, just like with Spicoli and the boys.
Nice. Mr. Hand.
I love it.
But, we all grow up. And I was very fortunate to have so much of an entrepreneurial mind. Mm-hmm. Have always sort of done marketing type stuff and got a little bit of education and rode the .com bubble in the the late mid 90s, I guess that was.
Yeah.
And just kind of educated myself on business and had a lot of starts, a lot of failures, a lot of successes. And then I think it was around 2009, so sort of in the aftermath of the big financial meltdown. What do we do? We go and start a brand new company that has no basis for any thought that it would succeed at all, except we thought it was the right time and we didn't want to wait. Yeah. And what that was a company that builds really large lithium-ion batteries to hybridize and electrify heavy industrial equipment.
Well, so how about you were ahead of the game on that
one.
one.
So we're taking the biggest machines on the planet, the dirtiest industries, and we're making them clean. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool thing. But, when we told, say, a 60-year-old ship owner that's worked his way up from being a deckhand to the captain and now owns a couple of boats, you picture this guy, he's got his torn jeans and his work boots and, his hands are like sausages from working hard his whole life. And then you say,
He definitely has an
"It's
anchor
a
tattoo."
diesel-powered boat, and we're going to make it run on batteries."
Yeah.
So there was a hard sell.
Yeah, for sure.
So we had to get really smart with how we did that. And basically we ended up, we sold it on the premise that they would get a lot of fuel savings.
Yeah.
We, first walked in and we're like, "Oh, we're going to make your boat green." And the guy would go, "Well, it doesn't need paint. Thank you very much." And that's the competitor's color. But, they were really happy with saving some green, and that would be in the form of cash. And so, we could show operational savings, in some cases, millions of dollars. And that's a thing that most people would be willing to at least experiment on. And just like anything else, there's always the early adopters, and then the sort of the big bubble in the middle, and then the laggards. And I'd say right now in Northern Europe and a lot of Europe is that they're sort of that wave is kind of growing. And so early adopters have made their moves. They've shown that it works. They've shown that they can save a lot of money, and there's a whole bunch of green incentives. Now everybody's getting in on the action.
Yeah, you guys were just ahead of the game.
We were ahead of the game, and it was a tough grind. Like, we did that for 5 years. But interestingly, we went from, I think we spent about 80,000, we're negative 80,000 the first year, and then we did about 800 in revenue the next year, and then 10 million the year after that,
Wow.
and then 35 million. So,
Holy moly.
there was a market there, and people were willing to listen to it. So that was sort of how I got into technology. Then, long story short, as one of the founders of that company, all the founders ended up getting fired.
That's not fun.
That's standard practice. Really. Yeah.
So that was a bitter pill. But we didn't have any non-competes in our contracts. And so we went on to basically outcompete them and outmaneuver them in a bunch of different ways. And now the current company is doing very well. And, it's time for me to work on something that I feel is almost like a legacy project. So, Happy Eco News is super close to my heart, right? Like it's the last thing I check before I go to bed, and the first thing I check when I wake up in the morning. And I should be checking my work email, but so I find myself, really just captured by this, and it feels good to help people feel good. And so that's the real nut of it, right? Like Happy Eco News is not about me getting rich. It's not about, anything for me personally so much as it is making me feel better, I guess, but it's about helping people who are potentially suffering from eco-anxiety, or that are, looking to it, like my kids, right? So I've got an 18-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son. They're smart kids. One's going into political science. The other one's going into journalism. They're going to change the world, but it's a brutal world that they've been handed. And so not everybody has the same depth of mental strength, or saying the wrong word. There's a lot of people that are hurt. There's a lot of people that are wounded and that are just feeling the pain these days. And so if I can provide a place for people to come and to see that there are actually good people doing good things, my goal is to engage them, and then to give them hope, and then to hopefully inspire them to start taking action in their daily lives. Small incremental changes that magnified over millions of people can actually make that groundswell of change that needs to occur in the world right now. So I have big goals for a little website. So, if I can change a few people, that's great,
That's awesome. And you had also shared that this has brought you to, I think you got a chance to speak at some of the COP events.
Yeah, that's right. So in 2015, we were given the opportunity to speak, and it's called the Conference of Parties. It's basically the COP21 in Paris that I was at, and it's the UN climate conference. So that kind of puts it in perspective. There's tens of thousands of people at this event. And it's kind of, it was an interesting time because there was a real sort of feeling in the air where, we can do this, we can make these changes, and it was an amazing thing. It's probably one of the highlights of my career. So yeah, I was there. I spoke at a conference on shipping and clean shipping. And it was interesting because in 2015, nobody even realized that electric ships were a thing. Now they're everywhere in Europe. And I'm quite proud to have been a part of that industry being born. In fact, as the marketing guy, I actually got to create a lot of the vocabulary around this industry.
That's awesome.
Just little things that I made up on the fly because I needed to have an acronym or I needed to have something to call a process have now become industry standard. And
that's cool.
Actually, Google was referencing my webpage glossary for, I think, about 10 years.
Wow.
They've changed the algorithm now, so it doesn't anymore. But, those kinds of things are pretty amazing. I was interviewed at the World Futures Energy Summit in Abu Dhabi, and I think that was in about 2012. And, here I am. And I'm not like a public speaking kind of guy, right? I'll do it. But, I get up there, my hands are shaking, and my voice is shaking sometimes.
Jacob has that problem.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
Jacob does not like to be in front of people. He doesn't like it when the camera's on him. He doesn't like to have to.
He's so
being
relaxed.
He's such a nervous Nelly.
He's being so sarcastic right now.
He cannot stand when people look at him.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it
doesn't seem to resonate somehow. Anyway, here I am being interviewed, and the man, wearing the suit and tie, and all these high-powered people around, and this young woman walks up and she says, "I'm with BBC World News. I'd love to talk to a representative of the company. Would you like to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, there's my CEO. I can't. I don't know. I know the product in and out." And so I did it, and it wasn't so bad. And then afterwards, I said, "So what's the distribution on something like this?" She goes, "Oh, BBC World News, yeah. About 350 million worldwide."
Good thing she didn't tell you before.
Because I might not have been able to pull this off. But the follow-up to that is actually just as I finished that. And I don't know if it was because the cameras were there or whatever, but there was a UN procession walking through the trade show floor where we had our stand. And we had a nice open stand and product with lights and all of that. And this unassuming gentleman walks up and asks about the technology. And it turns out it's Ban Ki-moon, who was the head of the UN at the time.
Wow.
And, he is like royalty, in sort of those types of circles. And responsible in a lot of ways for keeping the wheels on the bus during that time.
Yeah.
And he was just the nicest guy who was super interested in the technology, and you wouldn't expect a man of his type, I guess, to be that knowledgeable about an early stage technology like lithium energy storage was at the time. But he was, and he knew. And so that really gave me hope and faith that the people that need to know about things are actually knowing about those things.
Yeah. Yeah. The people in power that making the choices.
They don't think windmills cause cancer or, kind of crazy stuff. Right. So it's good.
They also,
what can I say? Like from a guy that hung out at the beach all through high school to, on the world stage, rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest, most influential people. And there's others, right? I could go on for hours on this. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's a great story. It's wonderful. Are you planning to hit up any more of the COP events coming
so
forward?
I was just invited to the COP26 in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And it was postponed. I was supposed to be there last year.
Yeah.
But of course, during coronavirus, they postponed it. I guess, they kind of were funny about having all the leaders of the world all in the same place during a pandemic, I guess,
Yeah.
So this year, I think everybody's vaccinated, at least I am. And they'll be going ahead with that. And once again, we're not sure how it's going to play out. It might not be the same format. It might be completely changed.
Sure.
the group that I'm going with, it was interesting. We had booked a whole bunch of hotel rooms, and then the hotel company canceled them all and then reissued them, refunded our money, and then reissued them at about 4 times the rate. So,
Wow.
So we rented a castle.
Nice.
There you go. That's how you stay in Glasgow.
Yeah,
That'll be good.
Yeah, if you're going to do it right. You know,
Yeah,
those,
yeah,
are,
exactly.
those are building construction methods that are low carbon and last literally forever.
It's right. It's right. We need more castles.
Yeah, exactly.
More castles.
We may see you there. We're
Okay,
working
great.
out our own little plans. We'd kind of gone back and forth depending on if it was going to be an in-person event or because for a while there was talk about doing something remote. But I think we may end up out there ourselves. So we
may have a room at the castle.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
awesome.
all right. Well, our lodgings
we'll meet
lodgings
you
are set.
at the castle.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll bring mead.
Just I know your listeners are probably not that interested, but it is an actual castle, and it comes with an executive chef. And I'm not paying for this, but it sounds good to me. You know?
Sounds
All right.
great to
well,
me.
it's a date. Go ahead and keep that room. We'll
Keep
be there.
that room open.
We'll stay with you. Sounds like a plan.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I know you understand, and our audience who's been listening to the show, when it comes to positive environmental stories, this is the daily struggle that we live, because there's not, like Noel said at the beginning, there's not a lot of us out there. And if I'm looking for podcast subject material, or I'm looking for just articles to tweet about, to share, and all that stuff, you can waste a good 2 to 3 hours on the internet just looking for positive topics, because people just aren't reporting on them. They exist. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, I wanted to ask you, because you did create this, so you must have kind of felt that same inclination a couple years ago.
Totally. So I started it on January 1st, 2018 from Starbucks in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And,
Nice.
Starbucks in Hong Kong is a different thing than it is in the States, I have to say.
Yeah, Starbucks in Hong Kong was an album by, I think, Marcy Playground. I think.
That's
Yeah.
correct,
Anyway, go on.
Oh my goodness, I had no idea.
No, I'm totally kidding.
You get me
this
every
is Jacob
time.
being
you
silly.
Get me every time. That's
I'm so
funny.
sorry.
You can't believe a word we say.
So anyway, we're my wife and I in 2017. She had just finished a job, and she had a long career in the apparel industry, and I was at a point where my boss was asking me, to move to Europe and be closer to the customers, and we decided that we didn't want to move to Europe and replicate our lives, there like we had in Canada.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do more of a cultural tour. So I persuaded my boss to let me. I said, if you really what you want is me to be closer to the customers, but really, really what you want is me to tell you that I will always be there for them no matter what or when or how. And he said, yes. And I said, if I can guarantee you that, do you really care where I am? No. So I'm going to go and travel. So we took our kids out of school, homeschooled them for a year, and traveled throughout the world, basically.
Wow.
We ended up in
Awesome.
20 countries on 4 continents. I think it was something like 35 cities. And our kids are teenagers, right? So it's not a small feat. Because they can be adversarial at times.
Sure.
But, what we really wanted to do was trying to take our kids out of this sort of upper middle class suburban bubble that we live in White Rock. And we wanted to take them to places and let them know how, so they really could understand how other people in the world lived. And ultimately what we found was how they were suffering. And, where we're all worried about, we have the luxury of eco-anxiety, as somebody recently pointed out to me, who's a person of color. She said, having eco-anxiety is like my day-to-day, right? You have the luxury of eco-anxiety, but I have to worry, about other things that are much more immediate and pressing that are going to affect me.
Sure.
So that was in a kind of a wake-up call. But we took the kids, we went to all these countries, and we found that people were human, they were kind, they were giving, and they all wanted the same thing at the end of the day, and that is a better life for their families. Mm-hmm. So they were living in pollution and squalor in these high density, we didn't go to the Club Meds, We went
Yeah.
to the small towns. We went to Cambodia. We went to places in Malaysia. But it was Bali. And sort of just before Christmas time, we flew into Bali. And it was in a rainstorm, as it's rainy season in Bali. And we got to our Airbnb, which was right near this beach called Canggu Beach, which is just a premier surfing beach. We wake up in the morning, my wife and I grab some coffees at the stand and walk down to check out the shore break. And the shore break was phenomenal, but the plastic on the beach was everywhere. And it covered this beautiful, pristine white sand beach. And guys, I can tell you, it wasn't even 1 square foot of sand didn't have a piece of plastic on it.
It's awful.
Everything from flip-flops to
Breaks your heart.
They sell single-use glasses of water. The plastic cup. You peel off the thing, you drink it, you throw it away. There's absolutely no recycling.
Wow.
And it was overwhelming. And, this beautiful place that I've been because, we'd been to all of the sort of places where people are struggling. And I was looking forward to Bali and just doing some surfing.
Yeah.
And it was that, and then there's a picture of my son. He gets up on the board for the first time. My wife's on shore. She's got the big Nikon camera with the long lens. We look at the photos later. Big piece of plastic film stuck to his leg.
Wow.
So anyway, it was one of those kind
These are
of
those moments. Yeah.
Real impactful moments that I had a real tough time with it. And, I'd seen a lot up until that point. I've traveled a lot. Right. But that really rocked me. And so I got home, and then now my only connection back to our place, and the only connection to home is the internet and a lot of social media, because we're on different time zones and all the news is bad. There's environmental rollbacks, there's doom and gloom and dire warnings, and it's all bad. It's all bad. It's all bad.
Yeah,
it's all
we're
bad.
all going to die.
But they call it doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. That's the nickname for it, which is this culture of where all your scrolling is doom. So go on.
Yeah, and so I was doing that, and that's a word now. It's in the lexicon, but it was nothing. I had never heard of that before, but I was doing it. So it got to the point where it didn't reconcile with me. It didn't make sense because I work in clean tech. I could name a dozen people that are true innovators working actively, cleaning water, cleaning plastic pollution, doing all these really good things for the planet. And they're doing it as businesses, right? These are not government funded programs that are just going to evaporate into thin air when the money runs out. These are people that are hardworking and that are actually making a go of these businesses based on solid economic principle.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could see that there was good people doing good things. And I always come back to that saying, good people, good things. And it's become kind of my tagline.
Yeah.
So I wanted to fairly represent their work in balance to the negative stuff. And I get it. Negative stuff, it's psychological. It gets more clicks. If it gets more clicks, it gets more screen time.
Yeah.
If it, it's just, and then people, they can't help. They go, what's horrible? What do I have to worry about now? And then they click, right? So my thought was then to just simply start promoting them. And it was like, I would find a story, I would post it on social media. It was that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I started doing it. And then I started finding more and more stories. And then I kind of got to the point where I had found a few sources of stories that were so robust that I figured I could have at least 5 a day. And then I created the website and then mailing list. I was already collecting names on a mailing list. And so now I'm getting about 100,000 viewers a month. It's not huge. But it's growing, and it's growing organically, and people are telling their friends, and I have done almost no marketing on it. Right. So,
that's awesome.
It's, I think, got a lot of potential, in terms of a business, but also in terms of, doing good for people. Yeah. So that's the long story.
I love it. Well, that's what you're here for on a podcast. You get a chance to stretch your legs and tell the story of how it came to be.
Yeah. So, and then the other things, like good people doing good things, right? So, it's amazing getting these emails and messages from people from all over the world. Most recently, a person from France just emailed me and said, "Hey, thank you so much for what you're doing, because it was just feeling pretty bleak." Another one was a young guy from, I think he's from the UK, and he said, "I am suffering from such severe anxiety about the future and the planet that every time I see a forest, I can't deal with it. I have a panic attack."
Wow.
And now, I'm no psychologist. I have psychologists that have written for me on the website, but all I can say to him is, stop reading the bad news, right? And he basically said the Happy Eco News is what he reads now. He doesn't go anywhere else. So I'm going to send him to Biofriendly. And
I was going to say, now you can send him to two places.
Well, it's an interesting time, and it's an interesting problem. I mean, the way that media has sold stories has always been to spread chaos, right? To accentuate the gloom, the doom, the problem, the how we're all done, right? I mean, before it was environmental issues, it was nuclear holocaust was coming. We're all going to die in nuclear hellfire, and then before that it was wars, and I mean it's how you sell papers. It's how you sell papers. Yeah, it is, but it's how you do the business, and they've never learned any better, and that's probably it's because that's the way humans work, and I guess that's just what we like to doom scroll. Which is
some of us, and I don't know that we like it. I think that's
we can't help it. We can't help it, but doom scrolling.
Yeah.
But
it's like it's kind of like what do they say? A train wreck. You can't help but watch. And I think it's maybe something, evolutionary. Like we want to know what, when somebody hears that somebody got killed, what happened, right? That's the first question. You may not ask it because you're too polite, or you might, but you always kind of think, well, what was it? And it's, I think, because we want to know what to avoid.
Yeah.
So we're intrinsically wired to, okay, what's the danger? We have to be alert to that. We have to be aware of it. But when it's constantly in your face all the time, then it becomes, I don't know if we become desensitized to it, which we may, but it's definitely unhealthy to have that sort of permeating your brain all of the time. Yeah. So, we're giving them a break. And that's what you guys are doing too. So hats off to you guys as well.
And you as well. I'm glad we've got some help out on this island, Yeah. Yeah, but it's an important side of it that I think has been forgotten, because there is enough bad news to report that if you don't also supplement it with all of the good news that actually exists, like when you actually start to, that's the thing I think people don't realize, and something we try to show on this, on our show and also on Biofriendly Planet, and that we see also on your site, is if you're actually in the middle of it, if you're actually getting your hands dirty with the problem of fixing this planet, you start to see who's out there doing it, and you start to meet the people who are in the middle of it, and you start to get involved in the whole scene, and you realize it's not like we're being blindsided by all of this anymore. There is a lot happening, and you know about it because people are looking at it, people are studying it, and people are actually making very effective solutions to solve it. Yeah. And this is going to be a shock to everybody who listens. We say to anybody who listens to the podcast, but we're going to figure it out. We are figuring it out, and we are going to get out of this. Yeah. This is as much as it seems impossible based on everything you read. We are going to get out of this, because you have no idea how much energy, how much force, how much positive power is actually being put behind solving the problem. Yeah. It's more than you can
billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars and bright minds.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. And one of the interesting, so for me, the benefit for me personally for Happy Eco News is I'm interested in this stuff. Like I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also an environmentalist, and I've turned into a bit of an eco activist as well, I guess. But it's like fuel for me to see these people that are doing these amazing projects. Yep. Yeah. But one of the interesting trends that I've been reading about is the brain drain from polluting type technologies to going to green type technologies. So simply put, It's kind of like what happened to the tobacco industry sort of during its demise. And what that is that all the brightest minds are not going into tobacco, right? All the brightest minds are going into maybe pharmaceuticals or something else at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
What's happening right now is all the brightest minds in the world are not going into destructive type technologies,
Right.
like fossil
It's
fuels
true.
or whatever. They're not, the brightest guys in the room are not looking for a new way to extract coal.
Right.
They're looking for a new way to create energy that doesn't have that negative impact.
Exactly.
And those big companies, the traditional blue chip companies that, still wield a big stick economically, are having a real tough time finding. I mean, it's not impossible. You pay them more money.
Yeah.
Right.
The writing is on the wall where these young people want to go when they come out of university.
Well, and a lot of these big companies are being forced to change. They are. I mean, you see. I mean, I don't want to go touting the horn of Shell too loud or anything like that, but you see that they've been forced by what's happening in the environment to change their business model, and to over the next. They're saying 50 years. I think they'll find that they've done it in 20 because they have no choice.
They have no choice.
They're shifting. They're shifting away from oil and into natural, into
a couple of real
sustainable
notable
energy.
ones, right? Like Shell is doing it. British Petroleum.
Yep.
Here's a company, British Petroleum.
Petroleum.
Yeah.
They are going completely, I believe, completely carbon neutral or carbon free. Like they're divesting completely, and I think it's by 2040. Okay, so they've got some runway, but they're doing it now, and all of a sudden their share value went up. The investors are not reacting poorly to this. Another one, which I'm fond of talking about, is I've worked with them in the past, and they're Danish Oil and Natural Gas. They're called Dawn Energy.
Sure.
In 2017, they completely divested from fossil fuels. So they went from being Danish Oil and Natural Gas. They called themselves Ørsted after, I think it's a 17th century inventor of electricity type stuff. Anyway, scientist. Here's a company that was worth billions of dollars in revenue, completely turns their back on the very thing that put them on the map because they knew it was the right thing for them to do in the long term.
Right.
So they're looking at it. I'm sure they took a big hit in values and revenue and all of that, but they thought it was the right thing to do, and they've gone ahead and done it. And so getting back to what you were saying, Noel, is about the fact that, we will fix it. I absolutely believe that as well. I have absolute faith in humanity's ability to solve these problems. And, I'm super excited to see America coming back into the sort of the proactive part of the climate conversation, because nobody can do more faster than Americans when they put their mind to it. So, it's going to be a group thing. We're all going to have to do this together.
Yeah.
It's one planet.
When you put some strong minds and some ingenuity and some creativity and entrepreneurial skill to it, great things happen. And so I think that's what we're going to see in the near term.
And I think that to your point with Happy Eco News, we're already seeing it. It's just that it's not being reported on enough because it's not selling papers.
Yeah.
So and that's okay. So we'll keep at it, and eventually
we'll keep at it, and we'll be that source.
It'll get there. But just
Joe
right here
Rogan of the environmental world, right?
Exactly. That's
there you go. That's very good.
That's the second time we've been. That's what
we're getting there.
Topper from Good Fare, he called us. He said, "You guys are going to be the Joe Rogan of the environmental world." So I'll take it. I'll take it. I want that guy's numbers. We were really excited to have you. That's this is pretty much the end of the show. But I wanted to just say, we are like-minded individuals. We're trying to do the same thing, and we really want to spread the word to the audience that you can doom scroll all you want, but occasionally you got to stop and admire the good work, the good news, because it will inspire you. It'll fill your heart to go, I can keep going. That's just human nature. You got to have that kind of pep talk every now and then,
Yeah, got to come up for air.
Got to come up for air.
And you've got to remember that you are doom scrolling because this is what sells, not necessarily because this is all there is.
That's all there is.
Yeah,
well said.
And my kids are pretty engaged, and they understand that the algorithm has them locked down pretty good. And they're a little resentful of these big corporations that have been manipulating them since they were toddlers.
Yeah.
Bad on me for letting them have the devices at a young age. We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But the genie's out of the bottle now.
Yeah.
So how do we rein it in?
A reckoning, I think, is coming for those companies. I think there's you can see that there's already a kind of a groundswell that's growing, and I think it's going to get worse just because, as you say, the brightest minds aren't happy about it, and they're shifting their attention, they're shifting their focus, and I think that we'll see. I think there's going to be some backlash for some of those companies.
There's hope for the future, is how I like to put it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Because that's what people do. We survive, right? We find a way to make it, and it is hard for young people right now because they have been lambasted and blindsided by something that I think none of us quite understood.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about that is that they don't have the luxury of wisdom that comes from age. And so they're getting all of this negative news all the time. Mm-hmm. They know they're being manipulated by an algorithm by big businesses and big companies that have all this data on them. But what they don't realize is that, because they just haven't had the personal experience and length of time on the planet, is that all of those things change. That pendulum swings back and forth
constantly.
And somewhere in the middle is maybe where we need to be, but it's gone. Like the media companies didn't ask for permission to take all our data. They just took it. Yep. But it's our data. We can take it back. And so just like the environment, those big companies that are polluting and feeding us what they think we want or what's good for them, they've just done it. They haven't asked for permission. But we own this planet.
Right.
Right? And it's ours.
Right.
And it's the animals, and it's the trees, and it's all of these things.
Right.
That one little small subset of people that are profiting from its destruction will have to wake up at some point and either change or become the dinosaurs.
Yeah, they'll change or they'll go extinct because because this is you're right. This snowball is rolling down the hill and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for the future. I can't wait to see what the next 10 years brings, and I think it's going to be good.
And I think that that's the reason that we have the websites we have, right? The networks we have is because our perspective is a little different. But that's because we're in the middle of it, and I think that's something that we try to encourage people to think about on the show, is that if you get a chance to talk to the people who are in the middle of it, you'll see that we're not just sitting on our hands. There is stuff happening.
Everybody's hard at work.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Good people doing good things.
Yep. Good people doing good things. Grant, this has been just absolutely amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Just take action. For everybody who's listening, do one thing. There's a young guy in California. I was on the website recently. He started picking up trash in his local park. He's now done it for more than 600 consecutive days.
Yeah, so cool.
It's awesome.
Do something.
That's such a huge difference. It seems like it's nothing, but you know what? You go out and you think about somebody just going out every day and picking up some trash on that beach you run in Bali.
Yeah.
If enough people just started doing that, picking up it, now that's not going to end up in the water. Now you'll be some of it might, depending on how. We'll get to that later.
That's a whole other animal.
but you have a chance for less of that to get to get out into there, and you keep the environment cleaner.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys very much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And
thank you for joining us.
That I can do to help out Biofriendly in the future, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you are officially a friend of the show.
A friend of the show. So you're stuck, and we're partying in a castle in Scotland. Yeah. Hey, you got T-shirts? Cool. Yeah, we're working on getting some T-shirts at some point too.
We'll trade T-shirts.
Yeah, trade T-shirts.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much. We'll be in touch, and can't wait to put this episode out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much. We'll talk to you later.
We'll see you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, that was awesome.
That's that little change that we talk about, obviously, here, but also that they talk about at Happy Ego News, is that little kind of mental change of like, you know what? I guess it is my responsibility. Yeah. I guess I am the one who has to clean this up, which is hard, I think, for a lot of people, because you do get angry, right? I mean, you get out there and you're on the beach and there's all this stuff there, and you're like, what? But Nut.
Yes, exactly. Bud Nut did this. Yeah, I get real. The most angry I get is if I'm on a hike and somebody has graffitied like a rock or like, that makes me furious.
Which is such a California thing, such an LA thing.
It is such an LA thing when you go out to these like beautiful areas and then, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, but we'll end on a positive note.
Okay.
Positive note.
And what's the positive note?
The positive note is...
So because you say positive, we can't end on that. Then we have to have a new note.
Positive note is this.
To
Love.
Okay, good.
That's positive.
All right.
And it's a note. All right. We have been your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Carefully avoiding neonicotinoids.
And we are the Siegfried and Roy and Meryl Streep of podcasts.
This show is a joke.
Never believe.
Step 1, quit. Step 1, think. Step 1, start. Step 1.
Step 1.
What is step 1? I forgot step 1. Step 1, chill out.
That was like a real time where I knew you weren't messing with
I
me.
didn't know. I
could
forgot.
see it. It just
I was like,
completely
it's gone.
left his brain.
No. Step 1, chill out.
Oh my god, you need an eyeglass.
I love it. He needs a monocle. And then that's where I say spilling the teeth since 2019.
And then there's another one, right?
I know, but
Isn't
we
there
did-
like a Sasquatch lives or something?
We totally blew up the microphones here. Okay. I can't remember. Last week we did have a bunch of like stuff there at the end,
It
but
was like, yeah.
who cares? Doesn't
All
matter.
right.
I need to start remembering again.
Yeah, I probably should write them down, I guess, or something.
guess.
No,
I
no,
guess.
if we can't remember it, it's not real.
It's going on the shirt.
It's going on the shirt.
Okay.
We'll put all the stuff on the shirt.
Deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, now we've spilled the teeth.
We spilled the teeth.
We can
so
call it.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Awesome.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.